Hello, welcome to this training on supporting emotional wellbeing during transition. Transitions can be exciting, but they can also bring uncertainty and anxiety for young people. As staff, you play an important role in helping them feel supported and confident during these periods of change. In this session, we'll explore how transition affects wellbeing, what anxiety can look like, and practical strategies you can use to support pupils effectively. My name is Emma Morton and I am a Trainee Education Mental Health Practitioner in the Calderdale Mental Health Support Team. The MHST is part of the Open Minds Partnership, with Open Minds being one of the key parts of this, providing the child and adolescent mental health service in Calderdale. This service provides specialist mental health support for children and young people, along with advice and signposting. The MHST offers a similar service but directly in schools. Open Minds also provides the opportunity for young people to get more help from SWIFT, which is the South West Yorkshire Foundation Trust, as well as completing neurodevelopmental support and assessments in Calderdale. The aims of this session are to understand how transition and change affect young people's emotional well-being, to recognise anxiety and its key signs, to understand how adolescent brain development can influence behaviour, to identify what effective transition support looks like, and to know some practical strategies that can be used to support young people with anxiety and transition. Coping with change. There are lots of examples of transition in everyday life, like moving house, moving school. Even the seasons are constantly changing. There are two different types of change. Discontinuous, which is sudden unplanned change, a bit like the pandemic that we had, and focal, where the change is planned and is the only change. So we hope the transition to high school is a focal change. Transition is easier when it's the only change in a young person's life. There will also be other changes that they experience, such as changes in social circles and brain changes. If a child struggles with transitions, it can have a negative impact on their emotional well-being and academic achievement. Young people need to be able to talk about their concerns and be supported with any readjustments. Change can be scary. Change can lead to worry and a sense of uncertainty about the future and what things will be like. It can feel like everything is out of their control, so it's important to focus on the things that they can control instead. We will have all gone through our own changes, and it's important to remember this, and that we as adults can worry about change too. It's important to remember this when considering how young people might feel. We have learned how to manage change and coping strategies. Some young people may not have learned this yet. I would encourage you now to pause the video at this point and jot down or have a think about any changes that you have experienced. Thinking about what was the change? How did you feel about it? Were you worried? Did you do anything that helped? And what was the outcome? Reflecting on our own experiences helps us to empathise with pupils facing change. The impact of transition. Here is a short video showing different views of transition to secondary school. Some children are more likely to struggle with transitions than others, and it is important to prepare these children as much as possible. Children who may struggle with transitions include young people with additional learning or neurodevelopmental needs, those with existing mental health or behavioural difficulties, those with limited parental support or experience of instability or in care placements, and those who have experienced anxiety or have had experience of bullying. Research taken from a survey of 1,100 young people across 4 schools shows that moving to secondary school can be one of the most stressful events in a young person's life. This can have an impact not only on the young person, but on their family and the school staff as well. Effects show there can be a possible drop in the young person's self-esteem as well as their educational attainment. Research also shows that it is responsibility of both parent, carers and staff from both schools to support transition. And although young people's perceptions of well-being remain constant outside of school, there was a considerable drop in school. The research also tells us that while transition support often works well initially, the effects can fade across the first year if not maintained. Transition can impact negatively on school belongingness, and pupils can experience a dip in school engagement and motivation. Difficult transitions are linked to poorer educational outcomes, increased anxiety and depression, and higher risk of disengagement or antisocial behaviour. Difficulties can vary depending on background. Young people from minority ethnic backgrounds and lower socio-economic status can find the transition more challenging. Autistic young people who have a need for structured routine and predictability might find the change in routine, staff, expectations, subject activities and environments challenging. Information processing skills and coping with information around a change may be challenging. Monotropic focus can make shifting attention and change, where lots of things are happening at once, more difficult. This means that a young person might find it trickier to move easily from subject to subject in high school, might find it hard to learn different rules and expectations from subject to subject, or classroom to classroom, having different teachers. Might find it hard to understand the new rules and expectations if staff are not consistent. Following instructions may be difficult, especially if they're only given verbally without any reinforcement. Autistic young people may find it challenging to plan and organise work, including homework. For example, they might struggle to prioritise which home task needs to be completed first. New vocabulary may need to be learned, which may be challenging for some young people, as well as inferring meaning from facial expressions, tone of voice, and body language. There may be changes in social rules, and some autistic young people may need support with understanding these. Autistic young people may need support in forming relationships in high school, and sensory differences may mean that the transition to high school is more challenging. For example, the movement, the light levels, noisy areas, finding it hard to follow instructions, the uniform due to the feel of certain materials, dislike of messy activities, differences in understanding of personal space, difficulties during lunchtime due to sensitivities to smells and taste, and difficulties with toilet and hygiene due to the smell of toilets, challenges moving around the school due to differences with balance and movement, and differences in interpreting inner feelings. Transition outcomes. A positive transition can lead to increased friendships, positive self-esteem, increased school motivation, increase in school interests, confidence building, adaptation to new routine, and academic success at all levels. A negative transition may lead to low mood or anxiety, school refusal, reduced attainment, risk-taking or antisocial behaviour. Warning signs. The following might suggest that a young person is struggling with the transition. They may find it difficult making friends. They may have feelings that they don't belong. Trouble coping with the routines, daily routines and changes. Increased number of absences. Challenging or disruptive behaviour. The loss of interest in school and lower than expected progress. Anxiety in the teenage brain. Transition and the changes that come with it may make young people feel more worried, but worry is completely normal. Anxiety happens when worry becomes persistent and hard to let go of, and we find ourselves worrying about lots of different things all of the time. Anxiety is actually a protective response. When the brain detects danger or stress, it releases adrenaline and activates the fight, flight, freeze response. The fight, flight, freeze response is an automatic psychological reaction to perceived threats, designed by the brain to protect against danger. Triggered by the amygdala, it releases adrenaline and cortisol, causing intense physical sensations like a pounding heart, shallow breathing, and muscle tension. It prepares the body to confront, fight, to escape, to fly, or to stay still, freeze, to ensure safety. Anxiety can show in different ways. Common signs include feeling on edge or overwhelmed, changes in sleep or appetite, and difficulty concentrating, feeling of tiredness or irritable all the time, and having those physical symptoms such as a racing heartbeat, feeling hot, or having a stomach ache. Young people may also avoid going to certain places or doing certain things because of how it makes them feel. They may also be reassuring seeking, asking questions from others, or repeating checking things such as, are the doors locked or light switch turned off? Adolescence is a period of change. Young people are coping with hormones, brain development, identity formation, peer pressures, and growing independence. There is a lot going on. Bodies and brains are changing at this time. Teenagers may experience a range of emotions during these years, but these emotions help them to make sense of the world around them. Hormones. During adolescence, there are significant hormonal changes. The sex hormones, testosterone, increases during adolescence, and high levels of this are linked to risk-taking behaviours. It's also linked to desire to increase and maintain social status. Although higher in males, this hormone is in females also, but lower amounts. Serotonin, the feel-good hormone. Levels fluctuate in adolescence. Lower levels are associated with depression, negative thinking, and hopelessness. It's also associated with appetite and sleep. Dopamine, which is linked to reward-motivated behaviour and sensation-seeking and risk-taking. During adolescence, the brain peaks in its sensitivity to dopamine. Teenage brains respond more strongly to large rewards than child or adult brains, but when offered a small reward, they respond less positively. Oxytocin, the love hormone, high presence in adolescence, which causes teenagers to place high values on spending time with others like their peers. Melatonin, the sleep hormone, it is released over a 24-hour period. Changes in adolescence affect sleep, but it is a time when memory is consolidated. Growth hormones are released. Synaptic pruning occurs, and deprivation causes changes to behaviour. Melatonin effects on young people with special educational needs are already prone to sleep difficulties, experienced by around 70% of young people with autism and 55% of young people with ADHD. Neurological changes. Adolescence is also an important time of neurological change. Brain changes that occur during this time include development of all areas of the brain. Brain development occurs from back to front. The emotional and reward-seeking areas develop earlier than the prefrontal cortex, which is the part responsible for impulse control and decision-making. The amygdala is where we get emotional arousal and sensation. It is responsible for the fight, flight, freeze response, for risk-taking and impulsivity. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for planning, reasoning and thinking, controlling impulses and self-control. The myelin, with a healthy sheath that allows neurons to connect to each other more effectively, 3,000 times more effectively. Brain connections are 100 times faster and 30 times less in resting periods. All of this leads to positive changes, increased intelligence, memory, abstract thinking, communication and language skills, improved connectivity, both sides of the brain working together. Synaptic pruning is the brain's way of tidying up. It keeps the connections it uses a lot of and clears away the one that it doesn't, making thinking and learning more effective over time. So we have seen how teenagers are experiencing a lot of changes to the hormones and their brains. This can cause some of the following behaviours. Feeling confused or uncertain, finding it difficult to make decisions. Decision making, this is part of the brain, is still developing at this age. The area of the brain that is most affected by pruning is the prefrontal cortex, and as we have seen, this is the area that is most associated with decision making, as well as forward thinking and anticipating consequences. This can make a young person become irritable and they can experience mood swings, prioritising fun, new things and getting rewards. The increased levels of oxytocin and dopamine which cause them to seek rewards and prioritise spending time with others. You may notice sleep difficulties, which is linked to changes in melatonin levels. Teenagers need more sleep due to these brain changes and synaptic pruning. Melatonin release is delayed in teenagers. Average release for an adult is at 10 o'clock at night, whereas averaging for a teenager is 1 a.m. We also notice risk-taking, which is linked to increased levels of the hormone testosterone, as well as a slow development of the prefrontal cortex, which helps us to moderate behaviour. The amygdala is more developed, so they are more likely to act on impulse. Sensitivity to stress. Networks between the amygdala and prefrontal cortex are still developing, so more difficult to control emotions, to think rationally. The prefrontal cortex is still developing and develops later, so the amygdala takes over more often. The emotional regulation is only slowly developing. During adolescence, young people experience a lot of hormonal and brain changes. These can lead to changes in behaviour, including risk-taking behaviours. Why does this happen? Risk-taking behaviours are linked to the increased levels of testosterone in adolescence. Testosterone is in both males and females, but lower levels in females. During adolescence, the brain develops from the back to the front, but it's the front of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, that is responsible for helping us to control our impulses and moderate our behaviour. The amygdala, which is responsible for risk-taking, impulsivity and sensation-seeking, is more developed. How to help? The good news is, because of all the teenage brain development, young people at this age are better at evaluating social situations and thinking about the consequences of their behaviour. You can help by helping young people to identify the risks of their behaviour and how these can impact on others, helping them to see the social risks attached to their behaviours and point out positive practice in their peers. Young people want to avoid losing out on friendships, relationships and looking foolish, and they're less likely to take advice and guidance from their parents or adults, and more likely to be persuaded by their peers. So use this to your advantage. Supporting transition. How can you support transition? Check in with a young person to see how they are coping, academically and emotionally. Are they making friends and positive relationships? Identify pupils who will need extra support and strategies that can be used to support them. For example, mentoring. Social events could include taster days, question and answer sessions, talks and events with current Year 7s and parents who have already been through the transition. Peer buddy systems could include older pupils supporting the new Year 7s. Prepare them to cope with the change, recognise and manage emotions, build resilience and problem-solving skills. How you can support transition. Support from teachers during transition can protect children from emotional and behavioural disaffection. It has been recorded that a reduction in teacher support during this time can result in reduced self-esteem and increased low mood. Teachers can prepare children for an academic shift. It is understood that transition for children of a lower academic ability or those with a chaotic home life, SEN, or the need for more support. Therefore, teachers are best placed to recognise this. Share information between schools and classes. The more information shared between primary and secondary is beneficial for the pupils. This could include teaching styles, expectations, subjects that are currently being studied, and share information like having a handover meeting. Organise visits. Can young people spend some time in their new class to familiarise themselves with the new setting or the new environment? Can they come up to the high school for a day visit? Meet the new teachers. Can they meet the teachers beforehand? Get to know them before the holidays? Maybe hold a question and answer session with the teachers? Or the teacher could write a letter to the new class to do a fact file about themselves. Use bridging materials or styles. If you know something works well for a young person, share it with a new teacher. Pass the resource on so they are familiar with it. Children to be more responsible for their own learning. Year 6 could be introduced to using a planner and being given a small amount of homework, so this makes them ready for high school and gives them more independence and that routine. Encourage new pairs and groups in class. Encourage them to get used to working with new people and new setup. Include time to discuss worries. Set aside some time to talk to your class about any worries they are having. This may be about transition or other things as well. Mindfulness. Include mindfulness in the classroom. This can be a really good way of focusing the attention on the present moment and calming back down again. And having links between the classes. Can the young person from a previous class come and speak to the new class about what it was like and what the teachers like? To give them some examples. Here are some strategies on supporting children with additional needs. Plan visits to the school at least once with a child before they start, and if possible, meet and take photos of any key people who will be involved in their transition. Create a book of photos and information they can refer to, as this can help to relieve anxiety. You might be able to arrange a phased entry in the new school where the child can go for a few hours a day or a few days a week to start with. Visual supports can be really helpful to help the child understand what will be happening and reinforce verbal communication. These will be need to use more than once, particularly if the change is going to take place over a prolonged period of time. Social stories, which are short descriptions of a particular situation, event or activity, including specific information about what to expect in the situation and why. You could create a social story to help the child know what to expect in their new school. Share information and keep the communication with staff at new school about the child's needs, likes, dislikes, and their capabilities and difficulties they may be experiencing and what causes them anxiety. Consider nominating a key person to support with transition and include any discussions regarding existing statements or education plans for the child. One-page profiles can help, which include any difficulties and barriers that the child might have faced in primary school, and include any strategies that work well or haven't worked and situations to be avoided, any main concerns that can be passed on during transition. Support with anxiety, give them opportunities to ask questions,
maybe giving them a worry box or a worry book so they can write down what their thoughts are and any questions they may have about transition, and teach them relaxation techniques to support them when they're feeling anxious.
How can parent carers support transition? Parents could ask their child to make a list of all the things that they like about themselves to boost their self-esteem. Remind parents not to let their worries become their child's worries. Parents can have quite a few worries sometimes about their child transitioning to secondary school, but it's important that they don't show their worries to the young person. Encouraging parents to explore what their child's clubs and activities they are into, and looking at what availabilities at the high school can be a fun opportunity for them to have a discussion around. Encourage parents to slowly increase their child independence over the last few months of primary school and the summer holidays so that the jump feels more natural. Encourage parents to set aside some time to listen to their child's worries about high school and let them know they are there to help. If a child is worried about the new canteen, encourage parents to take them to a cafe over the holidays where they can order and pay for their own food. Encourage parents to do a practice run of the journey to school so their child feels confident with it. Encourage parents to look at the school website, sign up to the school's portal to check that they have everything they need and all the equipment for starting the first day. And encourage parents to show confidence in their child so they believe in themselves too. It's important to remember that transition goes beyond just the first month of school in September. Year 7 is a window of opportunity to deliver strategies and support to help pupils adapt to their new school, to boost their confidence and to improve well-being. This could include extended inductions to ensure that it's a smooth and supportive start for the young person, spending time just focusing on getting the first half term right to ensure that the young person feels supported and know who to come to if they've got any worries or concerns, which include having additional time with their mentors, which just go over any questions they may be having about school or any worries they may have. Staggering lunch and lesson starts to avoid busy corridors. Children may have come from a smaller primary school and this may be quite overwhelming for them. Extra form group sessions to focus on building relationships and friendships with other people. Offering targeted support for those children who are having difficulties in specific areas or who have been identified as vulnerable by their primary school. This could include informal interventions, groups, clubs, peer mentoring, and support from the MHST. And consider the homework, maybe coordinating between departments so the young people don't feel overwhelmed by too many deadlines or having too much to do at the same time. The amount of homework will be a big change from what they've been used to at primary school. Parents' evening, offering a parents' evening early to allow parents to meet with staff and familiarise themselves with the building could be supportive for the young person as well. Here is some transition inspiration from schools around the country. So from Stockport, they run an after-school club and invite pupils from local primary schools to attend. These are delivered by Year 9s and Year 10 students. These can have a huge difference on the attitudes and well-being of those involved when they do start Year 7. They are friendly faces in high year groups to look for around the school and at break times. They're used to the building and they know some of the teachers well already. According to the staff, they have been a huge asset to the school and making the transition from Key Stage 2 to Key Stage 3. In Bristol, they use the summer holidays to prepare their new students for by running summer schemes which run for a week at a time in August. These are held out and run by the secondary school staff. The summer schools are a relaxed way to meet future classmates, spend time together to know teachers away from the daily grind and get to grips with getting to and from the new school every day for a week. It's so often the small things that worry new starters, like finding their way to drama from the art block or knowing where the toilets are. So summer schemes held at secondary schools can help get things off to a great start. In Ayres, the primary school builds in time for meditation and yoga into school day, all age groups and staff. as well as life skills lessons. They have a strong commitment to looking at practical ways in which pupils' confidence and resilience can be nurtured and developed as much as possible, enabling them to deal with change much more effectively as they develop, so that children are not only academically ready for secondary school, but emotionally and socially ready too. Neston High School, they provide taster days for pupils from Year 5 and 6 from local primary schools. They start in the Year 5 and occur throughout the year, so future pupils feel comfortable, know where the toilets are, have navigated the hustle and bustle of the canteen and get used to walking the corridors way before day 1 of Year 7. And Mindstorp, linked with local primary schools, are formed by running after-school classes, multi-skills festivals and other events throughout the year. So there are some examples of how to support transition so that Year 6 they've got more understanding of what the school's like as they get ready for September starts. How can we support emotional wellbeing through transition? Develop emotional education understanding. Help children talk about and recognise their emotions. Resources like thermometers, rating scales help children to rate the intensity of their feelings. Visual aids help children to verbalise and name their emotions. If they don't want to talk about it, could they draw how they feel or write about it? Giving them that visual option instead of verbalising may just support some young people who are finding that a little bit tricky and challenging. Build resilience. Help your pupils to build their resilience. The more resilience we have, the more able we are to cope with life's challenges and adapt to change and recover from setbacks. Games can also be used to think about different situations and to choose resilient behaviours. Help children to identify people who can help and support them. Manage worry. Help young people to manage their worry. Encourage them to talk about or write down any worries they might be having about high school. Ideas that could help. Maybe you could make a worry box and they could write down their worries and post it into the worry box like a worry monster. They could have their own worry diary to write down their worries and think about them at a certain time to talk through them. They can make a plan of what they could do when they're feeling anxious. Have an idea of some distractions that they could use or breathing strategies to help them when they are feeling anxious. Exposure ladder. Agree an exposure ladder to encourage bravery and help the young person to face their fears. This helps the young person face their fears gradually by starting with something easy, then building confidence through small, manageable steps, only progressing to the next step once they feel ready and confident. A transition passport lets pupils share important information about themselves with new teachers, letting them know what they would like the new teacher to know about them, helping build connections and understandings. Encourage self-regulation. Mindfulness and breathing exercises can help pupils stay present and calm. Encourage them to identify strategies that help them regulate emotions. Encourage children to identify what helps them feel calm and helps them to feel better when they are emotional. Consider making a plan or a contract. Social stories. Some young people benefit from breaking social situations into clear steps. Social stories and visual supports can help them understand expectations and perspective. Social stories and comic strip conversations can be useful to help children cope with change, reinforce learning about new coping strategies, improve understanding about different people's perspectives. Here is another video that discusses supporting transition and young people's views on transition. Other things to consider. Healthy lifestyle. Physical health strongly influences emotional well-being. Key areas include having a balanced diet, making sure they get enough sleep, and regular exercise. Physical activity releases endorphins, improves mood and boosts concentration, builds confidence and supports sleep, and strengthens social skills. Encourage young people to eat healthily, to eat at regular intervals. This keeps our blood sugar levels steady. When our blood sugar levels dip, we can become moody and irritable. Try to eat every 3 to 4 hours. Drinking water. When we don't drink enough water, this can lead to low energy, poor concentration and focus, confusion and become irritable. It can also cause you to crave unhealthy foods like crisps, fizzy drinks, which contain sugar, which might lead to an energy high, but then lead to a sugar dip, which causes mental tiredness. Try to drink 6 to 8 glasses of water per day. Encourage young people to have a balanced diet. Poor diet leads to low mood. It's good to have 5 portions of fruit and veg per day. Avoiding junk food. They give you quick highs, which are short-lived and can lead to you feeling tired and sluggish again. And limit processed food. Studies show that food high in sugars, added fats, salt and highly processed flours are linked to worse mental health, as well as heart disease, obesity, diabetes and other conditions. There's also a relationship between eating processed food and low mood. Encourage young people to be getting enough sleep. A bedtime routine. Try and go to bed at the same time each night and wake up at the same time. Do the same things before bed, put away your phone, maybe do a breathing exercise. Get yourself comfortable. Think about the temperature of the room, the light. Would a night light help? Or wearing an eye mask to block out the light. Relax. Try do something calming before bed, like a breathing exercise, listen to music or reading. Write down how you feel. If worries stop you sleeping or you have lots on your mind before bed, try writing it down in a journal to deal with in the morning. Make a plan. This can help distract from any worries or thoughts. Pack things ready for the next day. Make a plan for the day, including something to look forward to. Plan for change. Plan for change any routines in your routine. For example, school holidays. Whilst it's okay to sleep a little bit more, this doesn't mean sleeping all day. Still set a time to get up. When children and young people move, they are improving their mental and emotional health as well as their physical health. This is because physical activity releases endorphins, which helps us to feel happy. Physical activity is also proven to help children and young people to sharpen focus and increase concentration, to reduce anxiety and low mood and stress and anger, to gain confidence and improve body image, also to widen our friendship groups and increase resilience and determination. Physical activity also improves communication skills, develops teamwork and organisation skills, and helps young people cope with any exam pressures, and will also give an increased energy levels. The brain and the environment. The brain is shaped by experiences. Supportive environments and positive relationships help development, especially during adolescence when the brain is highly adaptable. Experience at this time can be really important for the remainder of life. Any trauma a young person has experienced can have an impact on brain development. Adults are a vital part of the environment and have an important role to play in influencing and supporting brain development. Good experiences and interventions can overcome any earlier negative experiences a young person may have had. Some approaches, sometimes called unhelpful brain practices, can work against how young people's brain manages stress and learning. Very strict behaviour systems, limited opportunities for movement or breaks, or emotionally flat environments can increase stress and make it harder for pupils to regulate their emotions and focus. Public shaming, arguing, or embarrassing a young person can also trigger a stress response, which reduces their ability to think clearly or respond calmly. Instead, supportive, predictable, and emotionally safe environments help keep the brain regulated and ready for learning. Seeking further support. What to do if more support is needed. If additional help is needed, look at the North Point website. This has lots of great resources and tips for young people. There are many services available, including counselling, wellbeing programs, specialist advice services, and school nursing teams. Early support can make a significant difference. The next few slides are signposts and advice to different services. Currently, Silver Cloud offers children and young people several programs of mental health support. This is free with a minimal waiting time, and it's early intervention for mild to moderate anxiety and low mood. The contact details for Silver Cloud are available on this slide. Schools is a digital mental health and wellbeing platform with discussion boards and live chat facilities. Night Owls is a confidential support line available from 8 p.m. through to 8 a.m. every night for all children and young people, as well as parent and carers throughout West Yorkshire. This slide gives you further information on the CAMHS Open Mind School offer. The next few slides provide further signposting, including digital apps and website links. To conclude, transition is a major milestone in a young person's life. With the right understanding, preparation and support, we can help pupils navigate change successfully, build resilience and thrive in their new environments. Thank you for listening.